If you think saving money is going to make you rich, I've got some bad news for you. It won't. And I'm about to show you exactly why your savings account is actually working against you. Look, I know what you've been told your whole life. Save your money, put it in the bank, be responsible, cut out the lattes, skip the avocado toast, and one day, magically, you'll be wealthy. But here's the truth nobody wants to admit. That advice is outdated and it's keeping you broke. In this video, I'm going to break down the math behind why saving alone will never build real wealth, what's actually happening to your money while it sits in that savings account, and what rich people do differently with their money that most people never learn. By the end, you're going to understand why the traditional advice you've been following is designed to keep you stuck in the middle class forever. So here's the problem. Let's say you're doing everything right according to conventional wisdom. You're saving 10% of your income every month. You've got an emergency fund. You're being disciplined. You feel like you're making progress. And technically, you are. But progress toward what? Let's run some actual numbers here because this is where it gets interesting. Say you make $50,000 a year. That's roughly the median income in the United States. You decide to save 10% of that, which is $5,000 a year. Sounds pretty good, right? In 10 years, you'll have saved $50,000. In 20 years, $100,000. In 30 years, $150,000. Except you won't, because we're forgetting about something really important here. Inflation. Inflation is the rate at which the purchasing power of your money decreases over time. Right now, we're seeing inflation rates between 3 and 4% annually, but it's been as high as 7 or 8% in recent years. For this example, let's use a conservative 3% annual inflation rate. That means every single year your money loses 3% of its value just sitting there. So that $5,000 you saved this year, next year it's only worth about $4,850 in today's money. The year after that, even less. Now, you might be thinking, but wait, my savings account pays interest. And you'd be right. Most high yield savings accounts right now are paying somewhere between 4 and 5% interest. Let's be generous and say you're getting 5%. So you're earning 5%, but losing 3% to inflation. That gives you a net gain of about 2% per year in real purchasing power. Let me show you what that actually looks like over time. If you save $5,000 a year for 30 years with a 2% real return, after inflation, you end up with about $200,000 in today's purchasing power. Now, $200,000 is nothing to laugh at. It's definitely better than zero, but is it rich? Is that financial freedom? Can you retire on that? Not really. $200,000 might cover a few years of retirement if you're extremely frugal. It's not buying you a house outright in most cities. It's not generating enough passive income to live off of. It's basically just a safety net, a nice cushion, but it's not wealth. And here's where it gets even worse. We just assumed a steady 3% inflation rate. But what if inflation spikes to 6 or 7% like it did recently? What if your savings account interest doesn't keep up? Then you're actually losing money in real terms. Your account balance might be going up, but your purchasing power is going down. This is what I mean when I say saving money won't make you rich. The system isn't designed for that. Banks pay you just enough interest to make you feel like you're being responsible, but not enough to actually build wealth. Meanwhile, they take your deposits and lend them out at much higher interest rates, making real money off your savings. So if saving doesn't work, what does? This is where we need to understand what rich people actually do with their money. And I'm not talking about trust fund kids or lottery winners. I'm talking about people who built wealth from regular incomes. Rich people understand one fundamental principle that most people miss. Your money needs to work harder than you do. They don't just save money. They put their money to work in assets that grow faster than inflation, assets that generate passive income, assets that compound over time. Let's talk about what I mean by assets. An asset is something that puts money in your pocket. It generates cash flow or appreciates in value, ideally both. The most common wealth building assets are stocks, real estate, and businesses. Let's break down each one. First, stocks. The stock market has historically returned about 10% per year on average over the long term. Some years are up, some are down, but over decades, that 10% average holds pretty steady. Now compare that to the 2% real return you're getting from your savings account. That's a massive difference. Let me show you what happens if you invest that same $5,000 per year into a stock index fund instead of a savings account. With a 10% average annual return over 30 years, you'd end up with about $900,000. Even if we subtract 3% for inflation to get the real return, you're looking at around 7% real growth. That turns your $5,000 per year into roughly $750,000 in today's purchasing power. That's nearly 4 times more than saving. Same amount of money going in, same 30-year timeline, but completely different results. This is the power of putting your money to work in assets instead of letting it sit in a bank account. But stocks aren't the only option. Real estate is another major wealth builder. When you buy rental property, you're getting multiple benefits at once. First, tenants pay you rent, which covers your mortgage and ideally gives you some cash flow on top. Second, the property appreciates in value over time. Third, you're paying down the mortgage with someone else's money, your tenant's rent. And fourth, you get tax benefits that can save you thousands every year. Let's say instead of saving $5,000 a year, you save for 2 years to get $10,000 for a down payment on a rental property. You buy a property for $150,000, put down $10,000 and finance the rest. Your tenant pays $1,200 per month in rent. Your mortgage, taxes, and insurance cost you $1,000 per month. That leaves you $200 per month in cash flow. Over 30 years, that property might appreciate to $300,000 or more. You've paid off the mortgage with your tenant's money. You've collected $200 per month for 30 years, which is $72,000 in cash flow. Plus, you now own a $300,000 asset, all from a $10,000 initial investment. And here's the thing. Wealthy people don't stop at one property. They take the equity from the first property, refinance or sell, and buy more properties. This is how real wealth is built, through leverage and multiplication of assets. The third major asset class is businesses. This is probably the most powerful wealth builder of all, but also the riskiest and most difficult. When you own a business, there's essentially no cap on how much you can earn. You're not trading time for money anymore. You're building a system that generates revenue, whether you're working or not. Now, I'm not saying everyone needs to quit their job and start a business tomorrow, but understanding business and entrepreneurship is crucial, even if you keep your day job. Maybe you start a side business. Maybe you invest in someone else's business. Maybe you buy dividend-paying stocks, which essentially makes you a part owner of huge companies. The point is, wealthy people think in terms of ownership and assets, not just saving and spending. Here's another critical difference in how rich people think about money. They understand opportunity cost. Every dollar you save in a low-interest account is a dollar that's not working harder somewhere else. It's not just about what you're gaining from that savings account interest. It's about what you're losing by not investing that money in higher return assets. Let's say you have $10,000 sitting in a savings account earning 5% interest. That's $500 a year. Sounds okay, but if that same $10,000 was invested in stocks earning 10%, that's $1,000 a year. You're not just missing out on an extra $500 in year one, you're missing out on the compound growth of that extra $500 over years and decades. This is what Einstein supposedly called the most powerful force in the universe, compound interest, and it works exponentially better when your returns are higher. Here's a comparison that really drives us this home. Person A saves $500 per month in a savings account at 5% interest. Person B invests $500 per month in index funds at 10% average returns. After 30 years, person A has about $400,000. Person B has over $1 million. Same monthly contribution, massively different outcomes. But here's what I need to address because I know some of you are thinking it. This sounds risky. The stock market crashes, real estate bubbles pop, businesses fail. At least my savings account is safe. And you're partially right. There is more volatility in investing compared to saving. Your account balance will go up and down. You might see it drop by 30 or 40% during a recession. That's scary. I get it. But here's what you need to understand. That volatility is short-term noise. Over long periods, and we're talking decades here, the trend is up. The stock market has survived every crash, every recession, every crisis, and come back stronger. Real estate has weathered every bubble and continued appreciating. Yes, there are down years, but the long-term trajectory is growth. Meanwhile, what's the risk of saving? The risk is guaranteed loss of purchasing power if your interest doesn't beat inflation. The risk is working your entire life and still not having enough to retire comfortably. The risk is being financially dependent when you're 70 years old because you played it too safe when you were 30. So, which risk would you rather take? The short-term volatility that historically leads to long-term wealth, or the guaranteed mediocrity of low yield savings? Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't save any money at all. You absolutely need an emergency fund. Most experts recommend 3 to 6 months of expenses in a readily accessible savings account. This is your safety net for unexpected job loss, medical bills, car repairs, whatever life throws at you. This money should be safe and liquid, but after you have that emergency fund, every extra dollar should be going to work for you in assets, not sitting in a bank account earning minimal interest. Here's the strategy I recommend for most people starting out. First, build that emergency fund. 3 to 6 months of expenses in a high-yield savings account. This is your foundation, your peace of mind. Don't skip this step. Second, if your employer offers a retirement account match, contribute enough to get the full match. This is literally free money. If you're not taking advantage of an employer match, you're leaving thousands of dollars on the table every year. Third, pay off high-interest debt, credit cards, personal loans, anything charging you more than 7 or 8% interest. This debt is destroying your wealth-building potential. Pay it off as aggressively as possible. Fourth, after those 3 steps are handled, start investing. Open a brokerage account and start putting money into low-cost index funds. These funds give you instant diversification across hundreds or thousands of companies. You don't need to pick individual stocks. You don't need to time the market. Just consistently invest and let time do the work. If you want to get into real estate, start educating yourself. Read books, listen to podcasts, learn about your local market, save up for a down payment. Start small, maybe with a duplex where you live in one unit and rent out the other. House hacking is a great way to get started in real estate investing. If you're interested in starting a business, begin with a side hustle, something you can do in your spare time without quitting your job. Test the idea, learn the skills, build it up gradually. Once it's generating consistent income, then you can consider making it your full-time focus. The key is to start. Most people spend their whole lives planning to invest someday, waiting for the perfect time, waiting until they have more money, waiting until they understand everything, and they end up never starting at all. You don't need to be an expert to start investing. You don't need thousands of dollars. You can start with as little as $50 or $100 a month. What matters is developing the habit and giving your money time to grow. Because here's the secret that rich people understand: time in the market beats timing the market. The younger you start, the less money you actually need to contribute to end up wealthy. Someone who starts investing at age 25 only needs to invest a few $100s a month to become a millionaire by retirement. Someone who waits until 45 might need to invest thousands per month to reach the same goal. This is the magic of compound growth. Your returns generate their own returns. The growth accelerates over time. The first 100,000 is the hardest. After that, the money starts making serious money on its own. Let me give you one more example to really hammer this home. Two friends, Sarah and Mike. Sarah starts investing $300 per month at age 25. She does this for 10 years, then stops completely. She never adds another dollar, but she leaves the money invested. Mike waits until he's 35 to start investing. He puts in $300 per month and continues until he's 65. That's 30 years of contributions versus Sarah's 10 years. Assuming both get a 10% average return, who has more money at age 65? Sarah does, even though Mike contributed for 3 times as long. Sarah invested $36,000 total. Mike invested $108,000, but Sarah ends up with more because she had time on her side. Those extra 10 years of compound growth made all the difference. This is why I get so frustrated when I see young people being told to just save money. You're wasting your most valuable asset, time. The years between 20 and 40 are the most important wealth building years of your life, and most people spend them barely saving anything or putting it in the wrong places. Now, you might be wondering about other strategies. What about cryptocurrency? What about gold? What about day trading? Here's my take. These can be part of a wealth building strategy, but they shouldn't be the foundation. Crypto is extremely volatile and speculative. Maybe put 5 or 10% of your portfolio in it if you believe in it, but don't bet your future on it. Gold is more of a hedge against inflation than a growth investment. It preserves wealth but doesn't grow it dramatically. Day trading is statistically a losing game for most people. The vast majority of day traders lose money. Stick to the boring, proven strategies: index funds, real estate, building or investing in real businesses. This is how actual wealth is built, not through get-rich-quick schemes or trying to outsmart the market. Let's talk about one more important concept: the difference between being rich and being wealthy. Rich means having a high income. Wealthy means having assets that generate income. You can be rich and still be broke if you spend everything you earn. You can be wealthy without a huge salary if your assets are producing cash flow. The goal isn't to look rich. The goal is to be wealthy, and that means focusing on asset accumulation, not just income or savings account balances. I see so many people making 6 figures who have nothing to show for it because they're spending it all on expensive cars, big houses they can't really afford, designer clothes, fancy vacations. They look rich, but they're living paycheck to paycheck. One job loss and they'd be in serious trouble. Then you have people making 50 or 60,000 a year who are quietly building wealth, maxing out retirement accounts, investing in rental properties, living below their means and putting the difference to work. In 20 years, they'll be financially free while the high-income earners are still stuck in the rat race. So here's what I want you to take away from this video. Saving money is important for emergencies and short-term goals, but saving alone will never make you rich. Your savings account is not a wealth-building tool. It's a parking spot for money you'll need soon. Real wealth comes from putting your money to work in assets that outpace inflation by a significant margin. Stocks, real estate, businesses. These are the vehicles that build wealth. You need to shift your mindset from saver to investor, from consumer to owner, from trading time for money to building systems that generate money. Start today, not someday. Even if it's just $50 a month into an index fund, take that first step. Open that brokerage account, buy that first share, read that first book on real estate investing. The hardest part is starting. Once you begin, momentum builds. And remember, every day you wait is a day of compound growth you're losing forever. You can't get that time back. Your future self is either going to thank you for starting now or regret that you kept putting it off. The choice is yours. You can keep doing what everyone else does, saving small amounts in low interest accounts and hoping it works out. Or you can do what wealthy people do, invest in assets that actually grow wealth. If you found this helpful, hit that subscribe button for more content like this.